and heroes acting out there on a silver screen. Come grab a seat, popcorn is on me.
Hello, welcome to Meet Me at the Movies. Noel T. Manning the second here, spending time with you right here, courtesy of C19 TV. And if you are spending time listening to the audio and the podcast radio version through WGWG, we thank you for that as well. Back in the virtual studio with us, Jacob Thornberry. Really happy to have you, man. Relatively new to the North Carolina Film Critics Association, but not new to your love and study of cinema. And you're going to be making a move, going to be in Wilmington beginning this fall, and taking another kind of extended journey into the study of film so you're going to become a master. So you're going to be like Obi-Wan. You're going to be a master. So we're happy for you. Always good to have you on the show, man.
Yeah, I now that you said that, I think anytime I go on a podcast, I'm going to have to be referred to as master. But
I think it's a good idea. Well, not yet. You're getting there.
That's true. That's true. I need to finish first before I can actually earn that title. But yeah, I appreciate you for having me on. I'm excited to get through and talk about this.
So, since you're in training to become a master, do you consider yourself a Padawan? I guess that's the question.
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah. That would have to be. I'm a grasshopper Padawan. Maybe at this point, because I'm already past the Padawan stage. Maybe I'm into the Jedi stage, right. And I'm working my way up.
Yeah. I'm not sure what that middle thing is called. Yeah. I need to go back and look at my Star Wars lingo to kind of figure out what apprentice. Is it apprentice?
Yeah. Is that what happens? So, yeah. So that would be
a Padawan to apprentice. Okay, there we go. All right. Well, thanks for those texts, for that research and development. Thanks to Thomas Manning for R&D there. And Thomas, speaking of kind of an apprentice, Thomas was going to join us today because a while back, we had Jacob on the show and we talked about biopics. And that was kind of a spin-off show, actually, from Lawrence Topman, who is a legend in the film critic and entertainment journalistic standpoint from Charlotte, North Carolina. We had him on talking about biopics. And I'm like, I didn't get a chance to talk about mine, so wanted to have a show to do that. And we thought, hey, let's see if Jacob's up for it. And we had a blast last time around. But Thomas is busy making money, making some of that pocket change. And he said to say hello to everyone and say hello to Jacob, and he's sorry he couldn't join us, but he'll maybe if we have a third part, this is the sequel. Yeah. If we have a third part starring all of us, maybe we'll have him back on for that. But we are going to talk about biopics. We previously talked about some that stood out to us, and there's so many incredible films throughout the history of cinema when you look at those based on historical figures. And we covered some of those last go round, and there were others on our list, and we've even added a few more since then. But Jacob, I will let you dive in first to one of those you want to make sure you cover, and tell us about the film and why it maybe speaks to you.
Yeah, so the first one I want to talk about, I talked on the last show about how I was going to have, a musical biopic, a historical biopic, and a sports biopic. And so for my sports biopic, I know Thomas will appreciate it because I know that it was on his list as well, but I have to go with the more recent Moneyball, which I think, in my opinion, Moneyball is probably the best sports movie ever made. And it's not even really about sports. It's about the statistics and the behind the scenes kind of adventure through building a team with little money and no roster, trying to create something that is really admirable and really something that works. And I think, through Moneyball, you kind of see that. And given with Moneyball, it's my favorite Brad Pitt performance that I've ever seen. I think that he was just absolutely phenomenal. And I think the movie in general, is what really makes a biopic work. It tells a story that isn't told. You know, we can watch all the Bohemian Rhapsodies and stuff like that, and we can see these stories from people that have their stories told all the time. But getting down to telling the story of a general manager of a baseball organization from the early 2000s is not what a lot of people know. And I really think it opened a lot of people's eyes to that sort of thing. And yeah, I just think it's great performances all around, great scripts, direction, just an incredible movie.
Yeah, the cinematography was amazing in this as well. You talk about the cast. You mentioned Brad Pitt and Philip Seymour Hoffman, late Philip Seymour Hoffman. I just love his work in so many different films, and he is such a versatile talent. I mean, you go back and look at what he did in Twister, and then compare it with some of his other things, Mission Impossible showing up in that, and then in this, and then of course Jonah Hill as well. The story screenplay for this, we talked on the previous show about the impact of Aaron Sorkin on cinema and his approach to screenwriting, and we talked about it with The Social Network last time. And I think the same way here. There's definitely that Aaron Sorkin stamp when you're listening to the dialogue and how the story unfolds. And this was a film that was based on a nonfiction book called Moneyball: The Art of Winning an Unfair Game by Michael Lewis, and that was released back in 2003. The film version of that came out in 2011. You're right, such an amazing film. Premiered at the Toronto Film Festival. Then it was released in 2011 September. Nominated for 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, which is kind of a rarity for a film that's about sports, but it's not, as you said. Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Actor for Pitt, and also Best Supporting Actor for Hill. Yeah, such a solid film, and one that I think even if you're not a fan of the sport, I think you can be a fan of this movie for what it is.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And I think that for me, it kind of got me more into baseball than I ever thought that I would be able to. I'm definitely a person who loves kind of the behind the scenes sort of things. You know, I used to play NFL head coach, which is a game that all you did was run the team, and then you just watch them play. And so it's kind of seeing that behind the scenes and seeing how that built up into what I think was at the time the longest win streak in like American League history or something like that, like 21 games in a row that they won, and how close they were to winning the championship, and just seeing, especially with Brad Pitt, seeing that kind of thing of, I could take this process to a bigger club and win more, or do I want to stay? And then again, like you said, Jonah Hill picking up an Oscar nomination for this was insane. I'd always grown up knowing him from, Knocked Up and Step
Yeah.
and not Superbad, and
Right.
kind of seeing him in those kind of roles, and then him actually giving a genuinely great performance in a supporting role was just phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, we're going to keep with the baseball theme with a pick from me, going back to 1992, when I heard that John Goodman, at that time, who was known for his comedy, both TV and film, was cast to play the role of Babe Ruth in the film called The Babe, back from 92. I wasn't really sure what I was going to get, but I tell you, watching that and watching Goodman become this character, and being taught the game of baseball by a priest that was cast. The cast for that was James Cronwell. So you got the guy who was second fiddle to the Babe in a movie about a pig, teaching the game of baseball to the Babe Ruth. In this film, I was really impressed with the casting for this. And also, this was a film, we talk about personal connections as well. This was a film that connected me to my stepfather at that time, Jimmy Stewart, who was since passed away, but he loved the game of baseball probably more than any other sport out there. And this really had a connection to me. I remember watching this film with him and the impact that made on his life growing up and seeing some of those legends, and then now getting a chance to see films about these legends really connected us in a very interesting way. The film was directed by Arthur Hiller, and Hiller is known, a Canadian-American TV film director, 50-year span of his career, 33 films. He was the president of the Directors Guild of America, also president of the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences at some point during his life as well. Just a longtime legend, and seeing him kind of take this on, nominated for 7 Oscars over the course of his career. Also directed a film called Love Story, which in 1970 was a legendary film as well. I love what this film told about the character of Babe Ruth, the person of Babe Ruth, the struggles of Babe Ruth, but also the game of baseball and the impact that he had on that game. If you haven't had a chance to find this film or watch this film, highly recommend it. It was released in April of 1992. Not a huge box office success, but a film that I think flies kind of under the radar, and more people need to check this out and embrace it for what it is, and also check out John Goodman for the talent that he is, which some people really did not get a chance to embrace fully.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I've never seen it, but it is something, especially now with the current state of baseball, and you're seeing probably the best two-way player since Babe Ruth is active in baseball with Shohei Ohtani, and so I think definitely going back, and I love John Goodman. I love everything he's done. I grew up watching him in the Flintstones movies, and now I'm watching him in Righteous Gemstones, and he's hilarious. He's always so dedicated. If you haven't seen what you think is a good John Goodman performance, watch 10 Cloverfield Lane, because he is horrifying in that movie.
Yes.
But yeah, it's one that I haven't seen, but definitely want to go check it out.
And I also want to mention another cast member in this film. Kelly McGillis stars as the wife of Babe Ruth, and it's wonderful to see her on screen, especially during this time as well. We are talking biopics, and you are watching us on C19 TV, Meet Me in the Movies, or maybe you're listening to us through WG. We appreciate it however you spend time with us. We're going to take a quick intermission, come back and dive into some more biopics on this sequel to the biopic special on Meet Me at the Movies. Stick around.
Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch a flick?
Chef Paul Prudhomme once said, "You don't need a silver fork to eat good food." Well, on Cleveland County Kitchen, we don't have a silver fork, but we sure do serve up lots of good food. Hi, I'm Deborah Blanton. I hope you'll join me for the next Cleveland County Kitchen. Each month, we offer a complete farm-to-table experience. We visit local growers, we learn about nutrition, and wrap things up with wonderful meals prepared by our guest chefs. It's a lot of fun. I hope you'll join me for the next Cleveland County Kitchen.
Hi, I'm Deb Harden, host of For Your Information. The goal of our show is to educate and entertain you about all things pets throughout Cleveland County. We have various guests joining me each month to talk about dogs, cats, pigs, whatever kind of pet you can think of. Also each month, we will be joined by some furry friends looking for their forever homes. For Your Information each month right here on C19 TV and online at www.c19.tv.
Hey, I'm David Allen, back as Armchair Quarterback host for 2023.
I'm Guy Suttle from C19 TV Sports.
And I'm Rob Roop from KTCBroadcasting.com.
What's in store on the gridiron for 2023? Each week, we look at all 4 Cleveland County High School football teams: Burns, Crest, Kings Mountain, and Shelby. We will look at what happened the week before and look ahead at what's coming up this week.
And we'll also discuss ACC, SEC, and Gardner-Webb college football.
And of course, the NFL and those Carolina Panthers.
So don't miss another great season of football right here on Armchair Quarterback on C19 TV and online at c19.tv.
Won't you come and meet me at the movies? Won't you come and watch a flick?
Welcome back to Meet Me in the Movies. Noel T. Manning II here, hanging out with Jacob Thornberry. We are talking cinema, talking biopics, and some of our favorites, and maybe why. Before the break, we talked about a couple of baseball related films, and now we're going to take a little sharp left turn, and I'm not sure where we're heading down this pathway. Jacob, what's next on your list, man?
So for my next film, I have to go with a movie that speaks to me, like you were saying with, The Babe, something that speaks to you. This movie speaks to me. I grew up living actually right down the street from him, kind of seeing the end of his life and everything like that. But I have to go Walk the Line, the movie about Johnny Cash. I think the performance that Joaquin Phoenix gives as Johnny Cash, in not only the facial structure, not only the attitude, not only the personality, but in the voice as well, and the way that Phoenix was able to work his way into creating the Johnny Cash voice was absolutely stellar. I think it's one of my favorite performances, and something that I consider one of the best performances of all time. The film, one of the first big James Mangold films, and of course now he's helming Indiana Jones and X-Men and stuff like that, but one of the first big James Mangold films to kind of take off and really show this side of Johnny in a way that, like I said earlier, that a lot of people didn't see. And one of my favorite things is how James Mangold didn't make this a story about Johnny Cash or the life of Johnny. He really made this like a love story between Johnny and June, and how they wound up together and the difficulties that they had to go through throughout their lives to really end up a part of one another's lives. And of course, they lived most of their lives together. Again, right down the road from me, they lived and they're buried together now. They found each other in a way that was really, really palpable. And I think what not only Joaquin Phoenix, but I think what Reese Witherspoon did as June, they were both absolutely incredible. I think it's when it comes to music biopics, there's very few that are able to kind of effectively work. And I think we're seeing nowadays that it's becoming harder and harder for those type of movies to work, just because it's all the same movie. But I really do think that Walk the Line is one of those that uses the formula in a way that works, and in a way that when you have committed actors in front of the screen, when you have committed, cast behind the screen, I think that it can really work. And I mean, I go back and I listen to Joaquin Phoenix's version of some of Johnny's songs sometimes too.
Yes. Such a beautiful film. And I'm glad you talked about the love story aspect. And that really is, it's a backdrop musical for me. It's a backdrop musical biopic, because sure, the music is part of it, but the essence is that relationship between those two. And you talk about Mangold. One of the things that he's done over the course of his career is worked with one of the same cinematographers throughout so many of his films. He'd done Papa Mikel, who has worked with him on Indiana Jones' most recent film as well, but he's worked with him on so much, and he was there. And the cinematography in this is beautiful too. It's one of those things that it's it's so good because it just feels right that you don't realize how good it is. This film did get some love. Best Actress win for the Oscars, nominated for Best Actor, Best Sound, Best Costume Design, and Film Editing. Editing spectacular in this film. I've been a fan of Johnny Cash since I was a kid, and when I moved to this area, I got to get a kind of a different taste of Johnny Cash. He actually has an honorary doctorate from Gardner-Webb University. Johnny Cash got an honorary doctorate from here, and there's great pictures of him performing a concert in Spangler Stadium and receiving that honorary doctorate. And listening to Johnny throughout the years, and then in his later years, hearing him find a way to find new life in his music and other people discovering who he is. I've got just a great, interesting book that's been made into a documentary as well, called The Redemption of an American Icon, Johnny Cash. It explores his faith and his exploration of faith. And if you haven't read that book, I'd recommend that. Greg Laurie did this pretty fascinating film. But Johnny Cash, I'm so glad that there was a film that captured an aspect of his life. And while the music was substantial and Phoenix did an amazing job recreating that, again, it was about that love story, about that relationship.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And for me, it adds that little extra flair. I used to, growing up, I had a friend who lived down the street from him, and I used to drive by his house after it burned up, and seeing kind of the rubble and everything. And that's what they always said, living near, they always said that after June died, Johnny passed not soon after. And this elderly couple bought his house and his whole estate. And not long after that, the whole thing burnt up, and they, legend always said that it was them reclaiming their land and wanting to kind of keep their place their own. So even in death, their love story still made it through. But
absolutely.
But yeah, just an incredible movie.
Yep, love it. I will stay along the same pathway of the entertainment pathway with my biopic. Not a music biopic or a music-infused biopic, but one that is film-inspired. 1994, a guy named Tim Burton wanted to bring to life this filmmaker that had cult status. And I love Tim Burton's stuff. I love what he did. I've followed him throughout his career. And when he was taking on the story of Ed Wood, and cast including Johnny Depp, Martin Landau, Patricia Arquette, and Sarah Jessica Parker, I said, wow, I definitely need to check this out. And it was a really interesting take, almost bordering on parody, the way the story was told, but it really worked so well. Ed Wood was this, filmmaker that did so many things as low budget as possible, and made films that were so bad that they developed this cult-like status. And what Ed Wood was able to do with his cast and with his production design and with the story was bring something to life that made this crazy character just kind of enduring, and you really felt like you got to know who he was through the persona of what Johnny Depp brought to us. This film did get 2 Oscars, and Rick Baker for makeup, and Rick Baker's just a legend, and Martin Landau for Best Supporting, starring as a legend, and a film that I really appreciated, and gave me a chance, because at that time I was really studying and getting into film more, to dive in deeper to some of these filmmakers like the Ed Woods that were not those mainstream Citizen Kane's film study, but I've come to appreciate and understand that everybody sets out to, from a filmmaking standpoint, everybody sets out to make a good film or to tell a good story. Some have the tools and some don't to make that happen, but nobody sets out to make a bad film unless they just say, hey, I'm going to make a bad film. But most filmmakers do not. And it helped me to have a deeper appreciation for sure on some of those filmmakers that did not succeed in ways that we may consider successful.
Yeah. I'll be the first to say that Tim Burton, his style of direction just isn't for me, but I absolutely love Ed Wood. I think Johnny Depp's performance is exactly what he needed. And I think that this is one of the reasons why the two became sort of this like unbreakable pairing over the next, 10, 15 years, is because of the performance he gave in this. And I think, like you said, Lando, who won the Oscar for this movie as Bela Lugosi, was just absolutely incredible. And I thought that he gave a remarkable supporting performance. And just overall, I just think this movie, it's again, what we keep going back to. It's telling a story that's not told. And I think, I think this does it in such a great way to, like you said, show that, nobody goes out and they say, I'm going to make a bad movie. No one makes a movie saying, I'm going to make a cult classic. They always go out and they say, we're going to make something that will last and something that will be remembered. And I think showing that side of things is really interesting. And I think it's really impactful to allow, the audiences to see they really believed it. We might watch some of these movies and think, oh, what were the directors thinking? And they were thinking that they were going to make a world-class great movie. And so I think stories like this are the ones that really do need to be told. I love Ed Wood. Actually, if we do have a part 3, I'll be getting into another cult classic biopic that'll be next up on my list. So yeah, I was right there with you in the same headspace. I love Ed Wood. Everything that's everything about it. I just an absolutely incredible movie.
Well, I'm glad that you teed things up pretty well for us and set a sneak preview of things to come, because we will come back with a third installment of favorite biopics and why, because I've got a few more on my list as well. And instead of just giving you a 30-second take, I think it's worthy of us diving in like we have and exploring why, and also the successes that that some of these films had from a box office standpoint or a critical standpoint as well. So Jacob, we'll come back and do another installment for sure, and we'll get that on the books.
Perfect.
Before we leave, again, let people know that our audiences know where they can find you on social or online, and where's the best place to check out your work?
You can find me online on Twitter for however long Twitter's going to be still up and running at tberry57. But you can also find me on Instagram and Threads, if Threads becomes a new thing, at tberry57 as well. Really just everywhere. Letterboxd is probably the best place to find me. It's probably the social media that I'm most active, and it's same handle at tberry57.
Jacob, thanks for joining us. Always good to see you, and looking forward to having you closer in North Carolina for sure. And we appreciate everybody spending time with us right here on Meet Me at the Movies. However you choose to do that, we do appreciate it. We know you've got other things you can be doing, and to give us your time, I can't say thank you enough. So for Meet Me at the Movies, the entire cast and crew right here, I'm Noel T. Manning II. Until next time, that's a wrap.
Many films to view till we meet again.